Good morning and welcome to Immigration USA with Kathia, a show where I, Kathia Quiros, an immigration lawyer with more than 20 years of experience, will tell you about the news of immigration. I will explain the law, I will answer your questions, but most importantly, I will try to give you a little bit of peace and calm in the middle of so much turmoil. So, right now, uh, we are we are going through so many changes in the immigration arena, and we just need to stay strong, learn what are our rights, and try to protect ourselves in the middle of so much chaos. And this goes for everybody, not only for undocumented people, but also for immigrants who have an employment authorization or a legal permanent resident card. Nobody it's it's free from all the threats that the government is sending to the immigrant community. So today we're going to talk about the latest news. Unfortunately, they are not the best, but if we learn about them and we learn how to protect ourselves from these changes, then we'll come out better than if we don't. So, news number one, the government has announced the termination of TPS for um, Honduras and Nicaragua. Honduras and Nicaragua are two countries that were badly hurt many, many years ago, 25 years ago, by a hurricane, Hurricane Mitch. And so the government decided to provide it TPS. TPS is temporary protected status. And since then, for 25 years, these families have been living in the United States, working and paying taxes and raising their families. And now the government is saying it's time to go back to Honduras and Nicaragua. The government claims that the situation in these two countries has improved. Anybody who knows a little bit of the world news knows that the situation has not improved in any way, shape, or form. Today, Nicaragua is run by a dictator where there's a lot of human rights violations, and Honduras it's also a country that is destroyed by violence and poverty. So it's very sad that news claims that the situation in Honduras and Nicaragua has improved, and the government is giving 60 days to people with TPS to return to their countries. So what happens now? Well, what happens now is that 75,000 people who are still on TPS needs to figure out ways to move from TPS to a different type of visa or a green card. So how do you move from TPS into a green card? Well, it's not easy, but sometimes it is possible. You can move from TPS to a green card if you have a family visa petition from a U.S. spouse or from a U.S. son or daughter over 21. Sometimes you can also have a family visa petition from a mother, a father, or a sibling that can result in a green card. This takes much, much, much longer than when the petition is from your son or your spouse. Also, aside from moving from TPS to a green card through a family petition, you can move from TPS to a work visa if the person entered with advanced parole, which is a permit to travel. And we can also try to apply for VAWA, U visa, or T visa, which are humanitarian visas that allow for a person who is undocumented to obtain the protection of the law. Now, these U visa, T visa, and VAWA visa are not for everybody, are for victims of domestic violence or victims of violent crimes or victims of sexual or labor trafficking. So it's not for everybody. That's the reason that there is still 75,000 people with only TPS after 25 years because the law does not provide for alternatives for people in those situations. So at this point, my best advice is to tell immigrants who are in the United States with TPS from Honduras and Nicaragua to contact an immigration lawyer as fast as possible to see if any of these options are available to them. This is very unfortunate. Many people are going to lose their ability to work because their employment authorization is going to be terminated. The civil organizations are going to try to file lawsuits against the termination of TPS. Now, will they be successful? Most likely not, because the Supreme Court has already let us know that at this very moment they're giving the government wide powers to do whatever they want in the immigration arena. So it's possible that the lawsuits will not succeed, but at least probably will try to give them a little bit more of time. So please, if you have TPS for Honduras or Nicaragua, please contact a lawyer immediately. If you find that this information is important, please share, subscribe, like, help me spread the word so that we can get to the most amount of immigrants who need this information. The second news is that the BBB bill became law on July 4th. The big, beautiful bill of President Trump became the law, and with that, the Congress allowed for the issuance of billions of dollars to ICE in order to continue with their mass deportations. So things are going to get much harder for the undocumented community in the United States, because now the government has approved the money that ICE wants, and to increase the number of ICE officers, increase the number of detentions, and speed up deportations. So what does it mean for you if you're an immigrant in the United States? Well, while the government has provided the money to hire thousands of new ICE officers, and that is going to increase the number of detentions, it is very important for us immigrants to remember this. No matter how many people are detained, if you know your rights, the same amount of money, that the same amount of people that are detained will not be deported. Why? Because if you know that you're here for more than 2 years, you don't have a criminal record, you've never been deported before, then you are, under the law, you are allowed to have a deportation process. And this deportation process means that they cannot deport you immediately. They have to let you go home so that you can have your day in court with an immigration judge. The big, beautiful bill has allowed $40-something billion in money for ICE to hire more people. But it also has allowed a small amount of money to hire new judges, and that means that the backlog in cases in court are still going to be long and extensive. So if you know how to preserve your right to see an immigration judge and you are detained by ICE, most likely you're going to go home and you're going to have your immigration process from your house, and that could take a year or two. So even if you are detained by ICE, you will still remain in the United States for some time. So that if you are undocumented in the United States for more than 2 years, you don't have a criminal record or a prior deportation. Now, if you have a prior deportation, if you have a criminal record, if you've been here less than 2 years, then we are in trouble. Because if ICE gets a hold of you, most likely you will be detained, you will not be released, and you will be deported. So what do we do in those cases? Well, we need to prepare for the worst case scenario, because we are going to see a lot of pain and suffering in the next few months. How long it's going to take before ICE starts attacking us in a much wider scale? Well, I anticipate that it's going to take 2 to 3 months, because the money has just been released, and now ICE has to hire more people, and the hiring process is going to take a month or two. and the training process is going to take a month or two. So most likely, we are going to see big changes in immigration enforcement in the next 3 months. Um, so if you are planning on leaving the United States, um, please remember to do it through the CBP Home app and do it within the next 3 months. Otherwise, we are going to see a big step up in enforcement, and that may hurt you if you know that you have a criminal record, if you know that you have a prior order of deportation and you've never left or you re entered. Um, it is very unfortunate that Congress decided to approve all this money for ICE enforcement. It would have been much cheaper to work on immigration reform to allow these people to remain in the United States working as they've been doing. Now, the other news is that President Trump is talking about a new law that will allow for farm workers and hospitality workers to remain working in the United States. How is that possible? Well, we are waiting for the draft of the bill or the changes that he plans to do to see how is they're going to do it. Because in the United States, we have laws that penalize people who leave and re-enters the United States. So in order for farmers to request a agricultural visas, the employees will have to leave the United States and come back, and that can only be done through parole process. So we have to see how is they're going to do it. Is it possible? Can the government do something like that? Yes, it's possible. It's possible for the government um, to write new regulations that will allow for farmers to request more agricultural visas for employees who are already in the United States, but they will have to leave the United States and come back with their work visas so that they can remain in the United States working. That will open the door for them to be able to travel also. However, these agricultural visas are normally temporary in nature for 3 months, for 6 months. And what we know is that we need them permanently because there is a shortage of farm workers. So, how is the government going to deal with it? Well, we're waiting for more news on it. But I think it's great that the government is thinking about working on visas for agricultural workers, for hospitality workers. Now, the construction unions are also asking the government to be included in these changes because we also, if that deportations continue the way they are, we will also have a big shortage in construction workers. And in the same token, we will start seeing other industries also asking for help because the shortage of cheap labor, as we call it, will be greater and greater as deportations continue. So these are the most important news. Then there are some other news that happened during this weekend. For example, a court of immigration appeals told the state of Texas that they cannot, as a state, they cannot enforce immigration policy. They cannot deport people or make any arrangements to deport people who cross the border of Texas undocumented. And that is a very good decision because the powers of immigration are only with the federal government, are only with President Trump. And although what President Trump is doing, it's inhumane and it's wrong, it is better to have one source of these policy changes and rules changing um, uh, notices than to have every state also trying to do the same. So I am glad that the Court of Appeals decided not to allow Texas the chance to also do immigration changes. Now, will the state of Texas appeal? I believe so. This could end up in the Supreme Court, but we'll see. We'll see what the Supreme Court is going to say about these. Well, now I am ready to answer your questions. So if you have any questions, please leave me comments and I will do my best to answer. Remember that this show is in English And if you want to make questions in Spanish, you will have to go to Inmigrando con Katia. That's the channel that it's in Spanish and where I do a show every day at 8:30 in the morning Pacific time. My show in English is on Mondays on all the social media channels, and normally whenever I find time on my busy agenda to do it. So, is it possible to go from TPS to H2B? Only if you were never completely undocumented in the United States. So some people came with a tourist visa, and before the 6 months expiration of their permit to be here, they were able to obtain TPS. If that's the case, yeah, maybe you can move to an H2B because you will have to leave the country and ask for the visa outside. But commonly, no. If we have a parent green card holder and they can petition you, can we stay in the US during the waiting period? I'm traveled outside the US in 2018 and I was paroled into the US. Um, the answer to your first question is no. When a parent petitions for you, the petition may take 10 years, 20 years, and during that time, you're not allowed to remain in the United States. And if you are here on parole, uh, I will have to know more about your case to tell you if you have any options available. So my best advice is to talk to an immigration lawyer. Let me see. I'm looking for questions.
Okay.
You can pin a comment now. Hold on. Let me see. I'm looking for questions. Contact your senator, your congressman, send a letter, my brothers and sisters. Yes, Palermo, I think you are completely right about that. We really need to work with Congress to see if there is any chance to promote the passing of any bill that would help us in any way, shape, or form. I'm looking for questions in English. Let me see. Can you go TPS to DACA? Well, right now, DACA is not allowing for any new applications. So there are people who have TPS and DACA, and if they lose TPS, they can continue with DACA. But you cannot make new applications. The government is, well, you can make them, but the government is not making decisions on that. Do I need to disclose expired protective orders? No, because those, unless you were arrested, they won't ask you for it. I have been approved for military parole in place. Can I travel within the United States? I wouldn't. I would wait until you have the employment authorization before you can travel inside the United States. I have a friend that she terminated her TPS because her lawyer said so. So what's going to happen to her? Well, she's undocumented. I have a permanent bar. I'm applying for VAWA, no criminal record. Well, I think that's great. You can apply for VAWA even though you have the permanent bar. And with God's help, your VAWA will be approved and you will be protected from deportation. Uh, let me see. TPS eliminated. My kid turns 21 in January. What can I do in the meantime? Well, nothing. Well, I don't know about your situation, but if your only option is your kid, if you have legal entry, then when your kid turns 21, you will be able to ask for the green card. Can I apply for citizenship with DUI 2017 green card holder? Well, right now, yes. Uh, I have 4 DUIs. Can I apply? I don't know. I will have to see all the criminal records to see if you have a felony DUI or not. Um, when will when will DACA applications open in Florida? We don't know. Let me see. Did Didn't DHS have to make a determination on the extension or cancellation of TPS 60 days prior to the expiration date? Yes, and that's exactly what they did. They notified us today that TPS will expire in 60 days. So today they notify us that in 60 days, the TPS will be over for Honduras and Nicaragua. So it should have been extended 6 months automatically? No. If you are married to a green card holder, can she file the petition for you? Yes. Now, does that means that you're going to get papers? No, necessarily. Your U.S. citizen husband or spouse or your legal permanent resident spouse can file the petition for you, and the petition will be approved. But the petition is not the green card, and the petition is not an employment authorization. The petition is only the first step of many steps that the immigrant needs in order to obtain the green card. So you need to talk to a lawyer to see if that petition will get you a green card. Is family reunification still available during during status adjustment? No. Family reunification is a program from many years ago, from the amnesty from 1987. Right now, no. It can still be applied for military parole from son to father? Yes. Is it okay to go to Juarez with approved 601A? Yes. If you qualify for it, sure. Okay, guys, I gotta go, but I am so happy that I was able to answer as many questions as possible. Thank you for being here. I hope you find this program useful and that you help me spread the word. This is something new that I'm doing in English, but I pray that I will be able to help a lot of people with this show in English. I would like to reach all these immigrant communities where Spanish is not their first language, but they can understand me in English, and that way we can help improve the lives of many immigrants in the United States. If you enjoyed the show, please let me know. Put a like, share, spread the word, and I give you all my love and I thank you for being here. Bye.